I thought of a couple's costume, and I'm going to tell this before Tim's here because he's not going to like it. One person dresses as a witch, any kind of witch. The other one dresses as Knuckles.
Oh, I see where this is going.
And then when people ask who you are, you put up your dukes and say Knuckles and witch, right?
Is that what you saw, Chaffee?
It's what I saw.
You're like, oh, I see where this is going. Is that
yeah, that's
actually...
exactly where I saw it was going. Knuckles and witch.
Knuckles and witch.
Although it does defy the regular MLA format convention that in a pairing which includes Knuckles, and Knuckles always comes second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, see, this is how we're switching it up.
We're going Chicago style.
That's right.
You're not strong enough to kill my dad. This is issue 337 of the Insert Credit Audio Magazine, where I need the first draft of each article on my desk by 6 minutes after assignment, or I signal this horrible buzzer. Okay. I'm Alex Jaffe, and a misconception about me that it's time to re-debunk, I suppose, is that I am not the Alex Jaffe who did that one GDC talk. I've never done a GDC talk. It's a different Alex Jaffe. We had him on the show once. He's nice.
Okay, so I'm Frank Cifaldi, and misconception about me that I need to debunk again?
Re-debunk.
Yeah, re-debunk.
Wow, so I have to have something.
That you debunked once.
Let's see. Someone once said on a forum, after locating the prototype of SimCity for the 8-bit NES, and having not done anything with it, just having located it and not put the ROM online yet, that the reason it wasn't online yet was that I was being sued by Nintendo and EA at the same time. It's only half true. Only EA actually.
We call that a double-breasted suit.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah. Did they actually sue you? How'd that go?
Oh, they won. Yeah, I'm bro.
They got you. They got all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, the game companies hate when you have ROMs. They sue you. They immediately take
you can't
to court.
see the camera right now, but Frank is wearing one of those barrels with suspender straps because those are the only clothes he can afford now.
Yeah.
Those actually are not that cheap. Trust me.
Closet is full of burlap sacks.
They are not as cheap as...
You ever tried to buy a barrel?
They're not as cheap as the cartoons that have you believe.
I got a Cooper. You got a Cooper?
No.
I know a guy. A Cooper, a Hooper, those kind of guys out there.
A Casio Looper.
Yeah.
Who else is on this show? And what else do they have to debunk about themselves?
I'm Tim Rogers, and something about me I have to debunk that people need to have debunked about me. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
You have one of these like every week. You can find one.
Oh, no. I mean, well, there's one that's recurring, which is, that if you're listening to this, if you can hear this right now, you probably don't know me at all. Probably don't know god darn anything about me. Everything I've ever put on the internet has served to just obscure how I feel about everything, including myself, just in preparation for the era we live in now, where everything's sick. I've adequately protected myself. It's like I've been writing one really long email password for 20 years. And gotta say, feels pretty good.
That would be hard to remember.
You've been a digital doomsday prepper, and it has arrived.
It's not too bad. It feels pretty good.
Hey, Brandon, feel free to jump in a little bit earlier on these intro segments so that Tim doesn't have to wrap up by literally saying the words thank you to signal it's your turn to go.
Brandon talks slow. I don't know if here's a misconception that needs to be cleared up maybe, is that the design of this podcast, I came up with the idea for this podcast, and I've mentioned this before on this podcast, because somebody invited me to be on a podcast, and I listened to the most recent episode of their podcast, and it took them an hour before one of the guys jokingly said, I guess we should start talking about video games now. And I thought, at this time, I was talking with Brandon Sheffield and Frank Cifaldi about possibly doing some kind of a podcast. And I thought it was goddarn Brandon on that podcast. Brandon talks slower than anybody I know in real life. And it's just, I thought if we limit people to 6 minutes, maybe Brandon will pick it up a bit. And he never has. So good. Congratulations.
I just try not to step on your words too much. I'm waiting for you to finish up what you're saying.
You've been stepping on my words for half of your life. Just do it.
Step a little fast.
It's fine.
Just do it.
I know you've been stepping on them, Carl.
Is there a misconception about your life or self or persona that you need to clear up?
Well, some people say that I talk pretty slow. I don't know if you heard that one.
You talk slow, man.
Yeah.
I
You
guess
talk like you're one of those California people that they make fun of in New York for talking slow. You ever go to California, man? They talk so slow over there is what they say. And I'm like, man, they do.
I'm not in a hurry to get my words out.
That's all right.
A misconception about me would probably be that I don't like anything. And I think it's funny. It keeps coming up.
Oh, yeah.
That I apparently don't like anything.
You just don't like stuff that other people publicly like first. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. You've all been to high school.
You end every episode of this with more recommendations than anyone else.
That's right.
A VHS tape he picks up in Malaysia, yeah.
Yeah.
That counts as a thing he likes.
Brandon's popcorn classics.
I guess that's probably the main one. I don't know if it's not very interesting though, unfortunately. So there we are. But I did it.
Well, that's a thing.
Well, maybe this next topic can provide some interest. When did you first start to feel out of touch with the modern gamer?
I brought this up during the episode I hosted as Stellar Blade. Very fun that if you want to go back, if you didn't listen to that ep, I talked about that Stellar Blade game where the developer was saying it's the game they always wanted to make. And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand how such a person could just kind of fall out of the hospital tube and then grow up to make a game like that. It's very funny if you want to go back and listen to that because now there's just a bunch of nonsense. That game's poison for conversation now.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that I didn't foretell any of that, and I should have. So I guess that was when I fell out of touch very recently. Thank you.
I think for me, it's probably it's not a specific moment in time, but it's a recurring thing where a game that I have not really particularly heard of is incredibly popular, which happens pretty frequently. Like, every other week on Steam, there's some
weird nonsense.
Yeah, usually like a multiplayer thing that has just like taken the world by storm.
Hundreds of thousands of concurrent users or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to borrow a technique that I've employed for the past couple decades, when something like that happens, realize that a huge portion of the people who are excited about it, they didn't know about it either.
Yeah.
Until a couple minutes before they got into it.
Right.
And then you can be in touch fairly quickly. You don't even need to play it. You can be in touch fairly quickly and then feel safe from any accusations of being out of touch. It works.
Yeah.
A major part of being in touch is lying.
Maybe so.
High school again. Yeah. Posers. Yeah.
I think a companion piece to this is when I realized, and I don't remember exactly what this was, but it was definitely during the height of Twitter, when I realized that a bunch of my friends on Twitter who are all game developers or whatever talking about something doesn't mean that it's popular, which is very obvious. Of course, it's like
the old echo chamber.
But the echo chamber can be really like. There was a time. Do you remember this? What was it called? It was like Thunderclap, where people would sign you up to all do a tweet at the same time. I think it was called Thunderclap. Yeah. And so people would be like, "Will you join the Thunderclap for my game launch?"
Absolutely
and then you'd have like Rami Ismail, you'd have Zach Gage, you'd have all these people talking about the game right when it comes out, and you'd be like, oh, maybe it's popular, and then it just wouldn't be because it was a coordinated thing. I don't know.
Frank, have you ever been in touch with gaming?
I've been thinking about that, like when I was a kid.
Frankie's in touch.
Like when I was a Nintendo Power reading kid, for sure.
Yeah.
When I was an Electronic Gaming Monthly reading kid after I graduated from Nintendo Power, still in touch.
Did you wake up every morning and say Frankie's in his in touch era? Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah, I guess EGM is the Fear Street to Nintendo Power's Goosebumps.
I don't know what that means. I think that
that's for somebody.
Frank, I feel like you are in some ways more in touch with the average gamer than the rest of us because you play like
true.
7 games a year and they tend to be big ones and you don't play them right away, which I
7.
feel
I don't get up to 7. Yeah, I'm probably
this year you might be at 7.
I might be at 7 this year. It's my goal.
You need to get up to 7.
You need to get up to 7.
You got to pump that number up a little bit.
Yeah, those are rookie numbers.
Like I think that's the typical arrangement that people have with video games is like they have one console and they get FIFA and Call of Duty and one other thing.
Yeah, it's not gamer though. It's person, right?
I suppose that's a regular human
and
being.
then like I would say that, after maybe like 94, I was kind of out of touch. And then I was in touch again pretty much when I started working in games. So like 2005.
360 era.
Right. And then 360 era was maybe the last time I felt like I was like getting new games pretty often. Was in gamer mode. So probably stopped being in touch with being a gamer in like 2009, something like that.
Do you think that playing and getting new games regularly, do you think that getting them in the mail from publishers had anything to do with that? Because I didn't. No.
Well, you're out of touch and we're out of time. What role does spite play in video game development?
Is that Holland Oats? I can't.
Yes, that was Holland Oats.
Okay. I was just, it was giving me a trouble with that.
I think all games are made with spite, right? I mean,
does anybody else get really hungry for horse food when they hear Holland Oats? Just want to go down to the local horse food store.
Yeah.
Get me down to the feed barn.
I only get my oats from Holland.
Nice.
Spite in video
Dutch
games.
Oats.
Well, everything got to the finish line because of my spite. I feel like that I ever worked on. Like it always feels like I'm trying to prove to this game that I'm in charge here.
Yeah, I don't really have that as much myself. I wouldn't say if I'm too thwarted, I'm happy to let the video game win, unless I'm having a bit of fun. But I don't have that. I guess I don't have the antagonistic relationship with I have to beat this because it's trying to thwart me.
I thought it was video game development we were talking about.
I thought it was
development.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. That's even less spite then for me.
I'm not much of a spite player, but I'm definitely a spite maker.
Yeah,
I can tell you, I'd have if I were a AAA creative director right now, I would have a couple of real good ideas for exactly who to spite.
Yeah,
a lot of really good ideas.
It's true.
And they would be incredible because the game would be beautiful. Any AAA video game creative directed by me would, of course, be massively perfect mechanically. So it would just light these particular people on fire so hard. What I would do to spite them superficially in the game. I'm talking about the sorts of characters you would be forced to play as in my mechanically perfect video game. They would be so mad. But I couldn't see myself ever doing something like that for any of my personal projects that will never approach a AAA budget. Thank you. Thank you. So 0 spite for me.
No spite from me either. It's all, it's like obligation is what it is. It's like, I guess it's closer to guilt than spite in a way. I feel like
what is the difference between spite and guilt at the end of the day?
Seriously,
I'm asking. I'm a sociopath. I can't tell.
Yeah, it's the anger turned inward or outward, and but I do definitely think now why work so hard on something that doesn't have like a big message, doesn't have it's not going to save anybody. Why grind away with such fervor on something that's just a video game? And the answer for me is not spite. It's definitely closer to obligation. So yeah, but I see a lot of people talking about finishing stuff out of spite, and I guess it's like spite against the game itself for not being finished, right,
Yeah.
Frank?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, which is fair.
Well, and it's a little more than that. I mean, when we talk about me, like quote unquote, making games, it's usually more like cramming a bunch of editorial stuff into an interactive package, right? It's not really like game making so much. It did a little bit of that, but not a lot. So the spite for me is getting all that content in, even though like no one is asking for it except me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's the spite, is like, I don't even know who I'm proving it to, but so much of what I worked on is like, no one was asking for the stuff that I put in. In fact, people at the studio were telling me not to put the stuff in. Publishers were fighting me on the stuff that I wanted to put in.
They were slapping you back and forth with a single clown glove just in the face. Stop it, Frank, like that.
Yeah. And actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to lean into that. That's the spite, is that I would put all this content in, like almost because people were telling me not to. And there are definitely some really great pieces of content in my digital Eclipse collections that are only in there because I put them in like the day before submission and went, sorry.
Yeah, maybe I needed to have a little more spite, because I guess probably the total words of cut content from me is probably around 70,000 words of stuff that I did not get in, that I finished, but it was not into things.
Well, I wasn't producing that one, so
No.
Well, I believe it was the famous sculptor Michelangelo who said that when he sees a block of marble, he doesn't see a block of marble. He sees a statue waiting to get out.
Yeah.
That's a quote that a lot of people know. A lot of people don't know the second half of the quote. So Michelangelo says, when I look at a block of marble, I don't see a block of marble. I see a figure. I see a man I see a man in there, and I'm going to free him because he's going to hate it out here.
Yeah.
So that's my joke.
Get that guy out of there. Give that guy the misery.
Well, and then there's that third part about kissing him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes on to talk a lot about pizza and skateboarding.
He's going to hate it out here.
That's right.
And then he'll kiss me.
How can developers make the best of it when mandated by their publishers to build a season pass of post-launch content?
Ask for more money.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Get another 50% of the budget on top.
Mm-hmm.
And then you roll it up and smoke it. You can make a better video game that way, in my opinion, because I believe all video games should be the story, campaign, the single player. If we're talking about a AAA single player, I believe the single player campaign should be like 20%, and then 80% stuff should be optional. So I don't know. You just make more, better optional stuff to put on top.
It would be surprising and disappointing, though I'm sure someone will be able to cite an example, for that information to come after the game's release rather than before, as part of a plan to continue the game going forward. So like that should be something that is planned for from the earliest phases. We're going to launch with this amount of stuff, and then we're going to have seasons of whatever. We're going to have DLC, and we're going to have all these things. So theoretically / hopefully that should be planned for. And in terms of how to make the best of it, do something real cool. That's
nice.
what you should do. You should do something real cool.
You know what I actually suspect that a lot of people do to make the best of it is give junior staff the chair. You know what I mean? Like just let the junior staff go and see if, almost use it as an incubator internally, right? To see if anyone's got the chops. So I imagine that happens quite often, that you don't put like the leads on the season pass stuff. You put the more junior people.
Or if you're a Japanese studio, you put the juniors at the top at the beginning of the project, and then the director does all the interviews and takes credit.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good way too.
And despite having done 0 on the project. It's an interesting alternative to that.
I like when in extra content you go back to a place that you started out and there's different things. I like to revisit a place, and it's a good way to, you reuse assets, but it's also a little bit of tiny excitement for the player. If it's not an open world and you couldn't always go back to that zone, if you can go back there and there's different stuff and things have changed, that's kind of fun. I like that.
Yeah, I think season pass is DLC. I think there's sort of a knee-jerk reaction to just consider those things lame on principle, but there have been so many good examples in the last 5 or so years, 10 years, 8 years, 6 years. Zelda Breath of the Wild had really good season pass style DLC that just injected a couple things into the open world. The game was built to like pre-accommodate all that stuff. So I think there's enough blueprints and examples out there you could, as long as your game is true, you could go wild with stuff like that.
Yeah, I think a sort of counterexample is the latest Uncharted Legacy or whatever it's called, where it started as DLC for Uncharted 4, but it was so separate that it just became its own video game. So that was an example of not a good way to make a season pass, because it just became its own thing. It was good though, but it wasn't good as a season pass because it was too distinct and wound up becoming its own deal.
Or I guess one really neat thing to do as a season pass DLC is make the game really big and long and elaborate and then sell it full price so the console fanboys of the other side get mad. Like Sony did with Spider-Man Miles Morales, like Nintendo did with Zelda Tatke, like Sony did with God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
That's a joke about how people call those DLC. Glorified DLC because there's a couple animations that are exactly the same.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when a game that is like an open world thing, all they do is add additional nodes of the same kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I feel compelled to get those things, but it just winds up making the slog part of the game much longer.
Did you do Breath of the Wilds? Because they were pretty neat.
Yeah, they were shrines and stuff, and they have individual.
They added like a little narrative thing in there. It was pretty nice.
And you get a little motorcycle as well. You get a little bikey bike.
That part, speaking of, that seems like the inverse of Spite, putting a motorcycle in Zelda.
Yeah, what if we put a bike in it? Is more
what if we put in a thing that totally rules? People would love this. Three-year-olds are going to freak out when they play 200 hours of this game and get this thing, man. It's like reverse Spite.
That emotion is called Excite Bike.
Excite Spite, yeah.
When that came out, my social media feeds were basically just full of Link on a bike. It was just like everywhere. People were taking fancy photos of Link on a motorcycle.
The crazy thing is that really, really beautifully foreshadowed this Tears of the Kingdom game where you're building vehicles out of stuff. I don't know. I thought it was ridiculous when I first saw pics of it, and then I was like, oh. But I mean, I guess that's one way to have fun with your season pass DLC.
What's the most vindicated you've ever felt by a video game?
Vindicators by Atari.
Yeah.
Next question. That's it.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
On.
We'll be right back.
No, keep going. Keep going.
I'm trying to think in what context would I be vindicated? I thought something was going to happen and then it did, story-wise.
Let's think of, for example, there's a mechanic you were really excited about and you were telling all your buddies.
Oh, and then it was
It'd be so cool if a game had this, and then a game came out and it had that and everybody loved it.
Tim gets it.
And you told your friends, see, I was right. I could make a video game. And then all your friends clap.
Yeah, that's what you want. I'm talking about those moments where all your friends clapped.
Okay.
Yeah, all your friends clapped because you were right. You'd been saying something for years.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that it was right.
I don't know if I've ever been right about anything.
That's because mainstream press has never caught on to bonk yet. You're still waiting.
Still waiting.
You're still waiting for that epic Shigeru Miyamoto interview in the New Yorker where he admits bonk is better.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I spent my whole career trying to make a game better than bonk.
Still waiting for that Wii game to come out.
Yeah, that's never gonna happen. Rich Freeland was doing the music on that.
I mean, I've mentioned this on the show. I don't know if this is vindication, but a moment that has stuck with me for feeling recognized by a game, which is a kind of vindication, I guess, is still in the original BioShock, which I haven't played since it came out, so you'll forgive if details are a little sketchy.
I would kindly forgive you. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. The guy who makes you kill people and take photos of their bodies. And,
yes.
When I finally met him, I killed him and took a photo of his body, just because that was my way of having revenge against this twisted character, and I got an achievement for doing that, which made me feel seen.
Mm.
That's exciting.
AKA vindicated, maybe.
Not as seen as his body was by that camera.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I guess the achievement was the video game killing you and taking a picture of your body
Wow.
in a way. That's
Yeah, your corpse has been photographed by the achievement list they had to make for this game.
You know, they do the thing now where they take a screenshot of the moment you get the achievement and they save it to your PlayStation.
Yeah.
And it's always just the lamest, like most awkward screenshot of like camera tilted in a weird angle.
Yeah. Back when it made sense to take screenshots of your game and then share them on the internet because it was very easy at that time, and then they decided it wasn't good anymore. I would go browsing through the screens I had taken, many of which were taken accidentally through me hitting the wrong button. And then half of them would just be an achievement with just the worst screenshot behind it.
There's like that awful looking graphic design in like the PS4 times when it's just like this.
Yeah.
This weird little curvy line with a little trophy thing popping on it and some words.
Weird kind of oval thing, and then it's like the photo itself is just like a dark character, sort of half turned away from something. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of those.
They thought that was a good idea. I could understand thinking that was a good idea. It just didn't quite work out. Vindicated. I am selfish. I am wrong. Right? I was trying to think of like times when I thought something was going to happen in a video game and then it did, but I can't think of any of those. The end.
I got a couple of these, but
Great.
I don't know how exciting they are to talk through in real life.
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, let's try it. And if it's bad, we'll cut it from the show.
Here's a very, very small one.
Let's hear it.
Which was
Smaller the better, I'd say.
Yoshiki Okamoto of Street Fighter fame
Chill
hadn't gotten to do much in a while. And then I heard he was directing Brave Prove for the PSP. And there were 2 Brave Proves coming out. Brave Story. Brave Story is what I meant. Brave Prove is a PS1 game.
It's not very good. Brave Prove.
2 Brave Stories were coming out, and Okamoto was doing the PSP one, and I said aloud, that one's going to be pretty good. And then it was. Does that count? A couple people clapped, I think. I think a couple people clapped.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't exactly like a home run witnessed by billions when that game came out, though.
No, it was not.
That game was, in fact, pretty good.
Yeah, it was witnessed by a few.
We can think about this some more while we take a break. How about that?
I'm going to take myself a big old toilet break.
I'm not going to think about
Anyone
it.
want to take a break?
I want to take a break.
You don't have to think about it, Frank. In fact, let's not think about anything at all during this break. We'll be right back. The following ad supports the Insert Credit podcast, but is not necessarily endorsed by its individual members. This is the Insert Credit Quick Break. This week's episode of Insert Credit is sponsored by Amazing Grace. Where is my child? Amazing Grace is an action platformer about diving down from heaven and rescuing your child from hell. Run, jump, flap, and dash your way through the 9 circles of danger and collectibles. Fight demons and rescue the damned as you peel away layers of mystery and uncover a shocking truth that will change everything. Amazing Grace features 2D collectathon platforming action, a dynamic system of mid-air movement that lets you get some sick airtime, 20 levels, each with special achievement goals, an original soundtrack featuring solos by stars of the Pico 8 music community. Amazing Grace is a passion project by a solo developer named Olivia, and you can beat it in 2 hours. It will come out on Steam and itch.io on June 6th at 6:66 p.m. That's 6/6 of this year at 6:66 p.m. Amazing Grace. Go to hell. Welcome back to Insert Credit. Let's go to the dirtbag. This is the point of every episode where
Good idea.
I take a question submitted to us at patreon.com/insertcredit, where for mere dollars a month that you won't even miss, you get to send us questions, you get monthly bonus episodes, and you get some other stuff too. What other stuff? You'll have to sign up to find out.
Oh, also, don't ask me what the other stuff is.
That's right.
No, don't ask Tim. He doesn't know.
Don't send me a message asking me what the other stuff that you get on the insert credit. I
Did
don't
somebody
know.
actually do that?
Oh, they've done it a couple of times. Yeah.
That's funny to me.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I don't know what any of it is. You have to find out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's secret menu stuff. This question comes from Gaagaagiins, who asks, what studio or individual developer is best at naming games?
Naming games. Oh, I mean, it's Namco, like very clearly.
Oh, yeah.
Like vintage Namco.
Was there a guy at Namco who did that?
Oh, there was in fact a guy. He was even the CEO of the company.
Namco was pretty good at it.
Namco was the best. You got like Galaga, Galaxian, Bosconian, Pac-Man, Mappy, Rally X.
Yeah.
That's just the best video game names in history. They all happened
Wonder Momo.
over a period of like 10 years. Lucky and Wild. It's not one of them.
They're so good that they occasionally trick me into thinking I want to play old Namco games.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't. I really don't.
Xevious.
Mm-hmm.
Just sounds like something.
But who was the CEO of Namco at the time?
Yeah, I mean, Xevious isn't a Namco game. Yo Mama?
Yeah, you should be rich, Jeffy.
I mean, Tim was joking that Mr. Namco, but it's Mr. Nam and it was his company.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Nam's
my name
Right,
is
it was
Mr. Nam.
Namco.
And this is my company.
Yeah.
There were some good old Namco arcade games with some crazy names.
I think Taito was pretty good with, I guess, at things that appealed to a certain kind of a weirdo, like, because you got your Land Maker, you got Poochie Carrot. There's just, they had a weird variety. Growl was a pretty good name for a video game. Like Puzzle Bobble, what does that even mean? You know? It's
Puzzbo.
Cleopatra's Fortune.
Well, I mean, Puzzle Bobble is clearly a play on Bubble Bobble.
On Bubble.
Right,
yeah.
right. But
Yeah.
what's Bubble Bobble?
But what's
the
Bubble
part?
Bobble? They
Bubble
do
to
bobble
bubble.
around on it.
I think it's
Bubby
just
Bob.
the word bubble.
Yeah.
With the letter changed in
Certainly.
because it's just trying to sound like Libble Rabble by Namco.
It's a game about bobbling bubbles.
That's right.
I think Bubble Bobble is a response to Libble Rabble.
Might could be.
Well, then what's Libble Rabble?
Libble Rabble is just an awesome name. Again, I feel like somebody at Namco.
It is an awesome name, but where did it come from?
Somebody at Namco was really hardcore into TM, Transcendental Meditation, is my theory. And these were words that they had used in the past and put away. And they're like, I don't need this one anymore. And give it to the people.
Could be.
You know?
Could be.
King and Balloon.
Mm.
I mean, King and Balloon is pretty good, man. Dig Dug.
All those Taito games at the time were made based on like some obscure like religious laws and mores in order to, like, they had to meet some astrological projections and stuff in order to get greenlit. So
Druaga.
but people were just off the rails otherwise. They could say whatever they wanted. Yeah, Tower of Druaga is cool.
There's Druaga. There's Baraduke, right?
Mhm.
I mean, even the game name Sky Kid is pretty good, and that's actual dictionary words. Grobda is another one I really like. I like the game Grobda a lot as well. Xevious, obviously we already said Xevious.
Yeah, I always liked the Xevious derivation, Xevious 3D plus G. Does the G mean graphics? What does the G mean?
Yeah, they've got a couple of things.
Gravity?
There. They got so many good names for games over there at the Namco that, yeah.
Let's do a Western one. I was thinking about this for a while, trying to come up with a good one. And I think 80s Activision is actually pretty good.
Mm.
I think River Raid is a nice name for a video game. Beam Rider, The Dreadnought Factor, a good name.
Beam Rider is good. Yeah, they were going very like pulpy sci-fi, I feel like, with some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hero as an acronym, I think, is a really good name for a game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mind Shadow. Come on, Mind
Yeah, that's
Shadow.
pretty good.
Did 80s Activision ever make a game called Panic Park? Did they ever make a game called The Outfoxies? Did they ever
No.
make a game called Tinkle Pit?
Tinkle
competition. Tinkle Pit? I mean, come on. Tinkle Pit?
They could have made a game called Rolling Thunder.
Rolling Thunder. That is true, yeah.
Yeah,
Did they make a game called Pitfall?
they did.
No.
They did.
What's a better
I
game
guess that
title?
settles it.
Pitfall or Tinkle Pit?
Tinkle Pit for
Dirt-
sure.
What about Dirt Dash? Time Crisis is also a good name. Lord, they're the best.
Time Crisis is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Time Crisis is pretty
There-
good.
there's
It's
no
pretty
beating.
solid.
Nobody beats.
I'm gonna stop talking about Namco games now. I'm not even a Namco fan per se.
So I don't know what this game is, but on the Wikipedia list for Activision is Rodney's Fun Screen. So I think that wins.
Hi, I'm Rodney. This is my fun screen.
That's the game that I feel vindicated about.
Yeah.
That could be like a Web 1.0 site that I visit every week for updates. Yeah.
Activision's clearly the winner with Rodney's Fun Screen. Fun Screen's one word, by the way.
Oh, I actually found.
I like like sunscreen.
I'm just gonna throw out there that in a perhaps more basic sense, I think Sega's pretty good. They have a lot of really straightforward where you kind of understand what it is, like
don't understand. No.
Like Ninja Princess and Afterburner, Hang On.
So I got to stop the presses here before our listeners.
Rodney's Fun Screen.
I got to stop the on Rodney's Fun Screen here. This is actually turns out the first game by Rodney Greenblatt, the Parappa artist guy.
Oh wow,
that's his Fun Screen.
Here is
the
cover.
Rodney Greenblatt is he's a Zen Buddhist meditation practitioner living in the Catskills right now. So I earlier made my I would say 80% sincere theorization that whoever chose all those names at Namco was a mantra meditation aficionado. So Rodney's Fun Screen. There's more of a connection between hot video game titles and mantra meditation than we might know. So it's very interesting. Too Many Monsters.
Not sure about Dinky's House.
I think Barber Joe, Dinky's House, Too Many Monsters, and Alpha Beeps are also really good names.
Yeah, these are all games within Rodney's Fun Screen.
Yeah, Fun Screen, dude. It's computer fun for kids.
How do you make stealth good?
It's been done a lot. How do you make stealth good? Well, if you think stealth is bad and you only have experience playing stealth video games that people have recommended as being good stealth video games, recognize the possibility that the people recommending games to you are out of touch and try a stealth video game they didn't recommend. How do you make stealth good? Hitman. I don't know. Play Hitman all day, every day.
Yeah, I think
think about it.
There's like a push and pull between, like on one end of the spectrum is instant failure when you get spotted, and that's not very fun. And on the other end is you get spotted and then it just turns into a shooter, and then it's basically a shooter and you don't need to use stealth at all. And that's kind of the other side of making stealth not fun. And you got to be somewheres in the middle of that. Like, it can be fun to follow someone around, and like, it's not actually stealth, but in Deadly Premonition, it was fun to follow villagers around and see what they're doing. And you kind of had to be a little sneaky and stealthy about it. But it wasn't there. There was more reward for looking at what people were doing than there was failure for getting spotted. And I think that's kind of an important piece for me with stealth, is that I want to do the thing that I'm trying to do. I'm not forced to do the thing in a very prescripted way, if that makes sense.
I think to make stealth good, first you should understand what makes bad stealth bad. And 9 times out of 10, what makes bad stealth bad is somebody wanted to put a stealth segment in to check a box.
Mm-hmm.
And there is almost, in my opinion, if I were doing a top 10 list of the worst things, the buzzkills in AAA single-player video games, the number one buzzkill is a perfunctory bad stealth segment.
Yeah,
that's just injected like 3/4 of the way into the game.
That or escort mission, and they have basically the same kind of problem, which is that they're shoved in there with AI that's not really equipped for that.
Yeah,
and has very, very strict limitations and interaction that doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like it's a part of what you're supposed to be doing.
It's like I think stealth has a beautiful bouquet of verbs to it that if you're willing to just look at what makes the oldest stealth games compelling, I mean, we all know Kojima made Metal Gear about stealth because they couldn't have more than X number of moving objects on screen on their MSX game or whatever. But it's like if you start breaking it apart into how they turned that into a design, how they made the leap from a limitation to a design. Basically, they turned it into a game where you watch stuff happen. First screen of Metal Gear Solid, you watch a guy fall asleep, right? I feel asleep, the guy says, and then falls asleep. Mm-hmm. You're watching things happen in the game. And so if you tilt that around and you start to kind of prune the bonsai tree there, you realize you're making a video game where watching is a verb instead of shooting, where stuff is happening in the world and the player is watching and being mindful and observing and recognizing patterns. And you can start to build really, really lush, luxurious video games out of that. Or you can build nice little simple ones. I think Watch Dogs has good stealth parts in it that can also turn on a dime and into the most idiotic action scenes where you can just decide, you know what, let's just kill these dudes and kill them all. And then I also think, Hitman obviously is the primo example where it's barely even recognizable as stealth. It's a stuff's happening game, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I also want to counter what Brandon said about instant loss being caught being like, an extreme example of bad design. I don't agree with that.
It can be good.
Fun, yeah, especially if it's just like
intentional.
You automatically zap back to the start or something like that. Like I think that actually sounds pretty fun to me.
But it depends on how it's done because it has to be really sharp and snappy, and you have to understand exactly what all the conditions are, and those have to work very well. Because a lot of those where you get instant killed, it's like, where did that guy even come from? I couldn't see that guy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm almost imagining even like a 2D overhead, almost like grid based or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in a situation where the player has greater oversight into the world than the character in the game does, then it can be fun.
Then it's now a game about perfecting your movement. Which
Last question. What's the opposite of video games?
Okay, so it has to be purely analog and it has to not be for amusement, right? So it's a textbook. It's a school textbook. It's a biology textbook.
Textbooks are a little bit interactive though, because you can turn the page and stuff. Maybe it's like a plaque on a statue.
Well, interactive isn't. Well, okay.
Just trying to take it a little further.
A little further.
Yeah,
I was saying
static.
It can't be for amusement, but like it should also be as non-interactive as possible. It should be. Yeah. Okay.
A war memorial.
Well, why isn't it just? I was going to say a tree, but you can climb a tree.
Yeah.
Okay, it has to be something you can't touch, right? Like a something in a museum.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're going for the extreme,
the Mona Lisa.
And
that's
but you can interact with art by
That's true.
by thinking about it.
Think about it. I just thought about it. God darn it!
You just lost the game.
No, I like the idea that the opposite of video games is art.
Yeah.
I can tell you what the opposite of some particular video games are, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I kind of don't.
Okay, it is. I got it. I remember a segment years ago on Radio Lab, a show I used to listen to, about I think it was the pound and how there is like a reference thing deep in an archive for like how much a pound is. Like it's like a metal ball or something. And that's it. That's purely utilitarian. You cannot interact with it.
Yeah.
It's the reference for how much a pound weighs.
Yeah. Sure.
That's fun.
I'm on board with that.
All right. Question's over.
That's really good. That's the least video game object. Question's over.
Yeah. Now I want to make a video game about that.
It's like National Treasure, but you have to steal the pound.
You got to steal the pound and.
All right. Yeah. Next question. Make a video game about the unit that establishes the pound.
Chip a little bit away at it so that you change what a pound is.
It is a heist. It's got to be a heist. Right?
Yeah, it's a heist.
It is the MacGuffin of your adventure game. is the pound. I might even have it wrong. It might be a kilogram or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But let's assume that there's
Let's
a pound.
assume it's a pound. A pound is stupider, so it should be that.
And I think it's like a metal ball. I think it's like
Yeah.
a sphere of metal, and it's kept somewhere where no one's allowed to touch it because they could alter it.
So I just want to say that my idea here is that narratively, you're stealing it so that you can change the weight of it so that something that you have...
Replace it with a slightly lighter ball.
So that something you have is worth more money so that you become a millionaire. Like this amount of gold that you have is larger now.
Yeah. Some sort of Goldfinger plot.
Yeah.
But it has to be that, like, it has to be so ridiculously valuable, so much money at stake, possibly to the U.S. government, right? That they have to verify the weight by, bring out the ball.
What it is you are a boxing promoter and you need to make sure that your boxer meets the target weight. But the only way to do that is to change the definition of how much a pound is.
You've like taken it all the way to the Supreme Court, right? Like that.
Yeah.
This guy is
fastest
a featherweight
trial in history.
I don't know if okay, so first of all, is this actually the lightning round question is my number one question?
No, it's not.
And then number two, I want you all to know that the exercise you are encouraging with your participation is how they end up making Assassin's Creed games, okay? Because you end up with a story where there's just no way to actually write dialogue. There's no way to actually make interesting characters. And then the joke has been buried so many thousands of times. And it's like, well, I guess we just make it about the guy with the knife in his hand again. I don't know. Just put the knife in the guy's hand and then, there's a scene in a church, I guess. Start it there, and then there's a pyramid. All right. Okay. And then that's how an Assassin's Creed gets made.
You have to take the ball up to the to the highest point in the village and then jump off.
And do a big stack of hay.
I've got a joke we'll put in. This game has an inventory system, and your inventory has weight assigned to it, like a Fallout.
Yeah.
Once you've collected and put in your inventory the ball, the pound ball, suddenly everything but that pound ball now says like 0.997 pounds instead of 1 pound, because it turns out you were wrong.
Oh.
Wait, and oh my god, what if the organization you're with is like, it's like the secret society of metrics or something?
Yeah.
And you're trying to say metrics versus
metrics versus the poundies.
See, so now I'm interested. So you have the imperialists versus the metricists, right? And it's your new that's your new Assassin's Creed rivalry.
And their
is Embracer Group looking for a AAA game?
Their soldiers can be called the Foot Clan.
The Foot Clan versus the Kilogram Crew.
Yeah,
the Kilo Crew.
Kilometers.
This game is called User Reviews. I'm going to read a user review of a video game on Metacritic, and you have to guess what game they're talking about.
All right.
Here we go.
Oh, this should be fun.
First person to get it right wins for each one. Y'all get one guess each. Our first review is from Levon Seneca, who gave this game a 2 out of 10. My worst spent $ on eShop. Encouraged by positive reviews, quote, best game ever, unquote. Having played several good JRPGs before, I had like 10 approaches and never could stand more than 30 minutes. It's just so boring. Combat system is like in SNES games in 90s. Character progression is shallow and not rewarding. There's a lot of grind in extremely boring battles. The music is horrible. There's like 20 mins of soundtrack per entire game. Although most people praise the graphics, to me it looks like fairy tale for children up to 5 years old. Plus most characters look like they have esotropia, parentheses crossed eyes. For a good JRPG, choose anything but this lazy cash grab.
Wow.
Okay, eShop means like Switch, right?
Yeah, I feel like this guy is so wrong. I think it's Dragon Quest 11.
I also think that, yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, I was going
Brandon,
to
you
say
get the
that
point.
is Dragon Quest 11. So, yeah.
nice.
I was just going to say I did that Dragon Quest 11 review, and there were like so many people in the comments saying that they can't play this game because the characters look like they have crossed eyes.
Weird.
So, which
Right.
is like something I still don't actually see. So maybe I got to get my eyes checked.
This next review is from ZLT, who gave this game a 6 out of 10. It's pretty mid. It was fun at first, but now I would not go out of my way to play it anymore, especially when Sonic Frontiers The Final Horizon is out and Superstars is coming out in less than 2 weeks.
Sonic Mania.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's got to be Sonic Mania, but since I can't choose Sonic Mania, I'm gonna say Solar Ash because it's similar.
Frank, do you have a guess?
I mean, I was just like trying to figure out what Sonic game was between those two, and I think it was Mania. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that too.
You have overlooked a Sonic game. It was Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020.
Oh, whoops.
Oh, that's insane.
That's a weird
So
thing to say.
basically, what you did was you showed us a turd and asked us
Yeah.
what the dog's name was. Is what that sort of question was there.
Yeah, that's what we do here in the Lightning Round.
Yeah, let's-
looks like a
why
Jimbo.
not? Keep going. Cash grab.
Next one is from Rating All Games, who gave this an 8 out of 10. I mean, it's a great game, don't get me wrong, but the bumpers in extreme difficulty level 4 squeeze my nuts tighter than Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker. This is a brainiac. You have to be so smart and cultured to get this reference, or you have seen the Barbie film Goated Movie BTW.
Goated movie.
So all we have is that it has a difficulty
It has
level.
bumpers
It has
in level
bumpers.
4.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, but the bumpers in extreme difficulty level 4 squeeze my nuts tighter than etc.
Bumpers squeezing my nuts tighter than Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker. It sounds like this man, his nuts got cracked.
So I mean, this one can be like of any era, right? Any system, any era. I think that's.
It
I don't
could
think it's a
be
good
because
one.
this person's rating all games, although it's obviously very recently reviewed.
Oh, because of the Barbie.
Because of the
Because of the
Barbie
Barbie.
movie, the goated movie, BTW.
And also the word goaded.
Goated is a pretty good word, to be honest.
It's not
Has anything ever been goated and based at the same time?
people try to say so.
I think you should just pick which one you aspire to. Go for it.
Yeah.
If you end up with both,
More power
it
to
would
you.
be too epic, the kids would say.
Yeah.
Bumpers.
Yeah, yeah.
Bumpers. I have no idea.
Bumpers squeezing my nuts.
Demon's Tilt.
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to Google bumpers squeezing my nuts
Please do
tighter
not.
than Tchaikovsky.
Was it extreme level 4?
Extreme level 4.
Extreme difficulty
Okay,
level
so-
4, correct.
Quora, November 3rd, 2018. Why does my testicles sometimes hang low?
Okay,
All right.
Would it help if I told you that Tchaikovsky is misspelled? Like very badly.
No. No.
All right.
I don't have a guess. I don't care.
Okay.
This is a big old IDC from me as
Yeah,
well.
it's a Demon's Tilt because there's bumpers in
Yeah,
it.
Demon's Tilt is that is in fact a
But
pinball.
okay,
game.
but you think Demon's Tilt has like a difficulty level and then a number level after that? Like
I
level
wouldn't
4
put
if
it. I
extreme.
wouldn't put it past it.
Okay.
They just
Well, that's wrong. It was Super Monkey Ball.
oh yeah, it's got
Oh.
tilt
Okay.
in it though, and it's got bumpers.
Those bumpers.
This next one comes from Soldado34, who gave this game a 10 out of 10. And he said,
10 out of
Una
10.
obra prima, sem duvidas dos mejores es más importantes juegos de terror.
All right. It's an importante juego.
Yeah.
So this is a Brazilian person.
Yeah, or a
Okay.
Portuguese person. Well, it's a Brazilian. It's a
Or
Brazilian
Portuguese,
person.
but I would assume they're Brazilian usually. If it's an importante juego for Brazil, I'm going to say it's like a Master System game. So
That's a really outdated stereotype.
I'm going to say that this is the Wonder Boy and Monsterland
Yeah,
remake.
dang it.
I'm gonna say.
Well, okay,
it's,
wait, hang on. It can't be. Well, it could be, I guess.
It's the
But
remake.
they had the reskin of it, the Monica, based on their cartoon series, Kid with a Rabbit.
I will reiterate that Soldado34 did specify Juegos de Terror.
Oh.
horror games. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I was I transposed it into Juegos de Tierra, games in the world, which
Yeah.
doesn't
Oh,
make
yeah,
sense really.
that's not,
but
yeah.
that's not how that works. But that's what happened in my brain. Okay, Hogos de
Probably
Terror.
Resident Evil 4. I mean, everybody
Resident
loves
Evil
that.
2 remake. I don't know.
Resident Evil 4 remake.
Tim, you got a guess?
I said Resident Evil 4, and I meant
Oh, you did?
whichever
Okay.
one.
This
real
was
one, yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, FNAFs.
Oh, yeah.
This next one is from Yojimbo 2015. Gave this game a
Okay.
9 out of 10.
All right.
Returns to its roots with an overhead view, cool cel-shaded cutscenes, plenty of humor, and its stripped-down gameplay suits the handheld format to a T. As usual, the PSP version has better graphics thanks to its larger screen, but the creative use of the touchscreen plays to the strengths of the DS. Great stuff.
Shoot, I was about to say that Link to the Past remake until you said PSP.
All right, overhead
Peace.
and
Peace.
like animated cutscenes, right?
Yeah, shoot.
Well, I thought this would be an easy one.
Well, it isn't.
And it's a series returning to its roots. It's not a remake.
Yeah, going back to its roots.
The roots is good.
I wonder if it's like, it feels. I got Final Fantasy vibes off of it, but I'm not sure. Because there were a couple that were both on the PSP and the DS.
Were they new though, as opposed to
No,
remakes?
they were
Yeah,
remakes.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Because that's where I was going too.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff.
I do like great stuff. So
Did they make any? Was that the whole review, or did they make any comments about how their nuts were affected?
Not in this one, no.
Okay.
not in this one.
Any Tchaikovsky references?
Neither correctly spelled nor misspelled.
I'm drawing a blank on this one.
There were like 4,200 East games for the PSP. Were there any of those released on the DS?
Might could be.
I know there are people at home screaming at their podcatchers right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Catch your pods.
All right, we're out of time. The answer was Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Ward.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. That makes sense.
All right, next one is from Misfit. Misfit is spelled M1SFIT, and the M and the T are capitalized. It's a 7 out
should
of
be.
10. And the full extent of the review is games.
Daytona USA. It isn't Daytona USA, but it should be.
That's just what I imagine goes through the head of anybody who actually likes a WarioWare.
Actually, I was about to say WarioWare.
It was
just like-
Turok 2, Seeds of Evil.
Oh.
Close.
Yeah.
Close.
I
And
just
finally-
imagine like a caveman slapping a rock, yelling games whenever they see
Yeah.
WarioWare.
Yeah.
All right, and finally, user reviews available after 4 ratings.
Oh, they're not no more than 4.
Okay.
Hypergun Sport.
Correct!
God darn it.
Brandon, you won this week's episode. Congratulations.
That's very good.
And truly, I was owned.
God, so owned.
Yeah.
It's incredible you managed to get that word out in time before the timer ran out.
Yeah.
Anyone got any recommendations?
Okay. Do I have recommendations? I think I got some.
Brandon's Popcorn Classics.
Popcorn Classics. There are these Parmesan squares that you can purchase at the grocery that are, it's just like a little square of eaten cheese. It's a square of Parmesan from Belgioioso.
Belgioso.
Actually. Belgioioso.
It's pronounced Belgioso, but yeah.
Belgioso, okay. They make
It
these
means
Parmesan
good
squares.
morning in Italian.
And they are
Belgioso.
Belgioso. They're tasty as heck, and it's just a little square cheese. If you eat cheese, get the Parmesan one because the Asiago one is doesn't have as much of a flavor tastiness. I tried the others. There's one that's just regular mozzarella. I haven't tried that because that's not interesting to
Oh, you mean mozzarella?
me. Yeah, mozzarella, as they say.
Every single supermarket here in New York, they sell the Belgioso mozzarella snacking
I think it's
cheeses.
pronounced gabagool.
Yeah, so you should get those Parmesan squares if you're into that sort of thing
Look
because
for Parmesan squares in your gabagool aisle.
That's right.
Every once in a gabagoile, you'll find them. You'll find the Parmesan square.
Yeah. So that's my recommendation. It's just those this week.
Oh, that's pretty sick.
Making fun of Italians still on the table.
I have one other, which is something I've been meaning to say for a long time, which is an update to the idea of talking to your parents about trans rights and stuff. I mentioned that a long time ago that you should do that, but I wanted to follow up that if your parents are a lost cause in that regard, and you probably will know when that is true, that there's just like kind of no point talking to them and it would just be a wasted expense of energy, then instead find something else that you can do, like donate to some nice organizations or just support your local orgs that do stuff with that. Just like, don't burn all your energy trying to talk to your parents if that's gonna be a failure. That's
If
I
it's
just
an
wanted
option for you, you just don't have to talk to them at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. I haven't talked to my parents in like 2 years, and I don't dislike them. We're on decent terms. You can probably, if you can get away with it, you can do it too. It's easy.
I kind of like the almost carbon offset nature of this recommendation.
Yeah. That's
Just
right.
move it over somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, move your energies over to where they might actually.
Yeah, your
do
recommendation is to
something.
pick your battle.
Yeah, pick your battles.
Okay, so entertainment wise, I'm still on the same stuff I've already recommended. But just thinking about Brandon's popcorn time got me thinking like, oh, I have an air popper that I really like, and they're really cheap to find, like used air poppers on eBay. I bought one because it turns out it's kind of one of the best ways to roast raw coffee beans at home. But in the process of doing that, I went, why don't I just also put some popcorn in here? And air popping popcorn is a pretty good time.
Yeah.
So,
Popcorn is good, Frank. You should get yourself a whirly pop.
a whirly pop.
Look it up on Amazon later. And
I
see
don't
what
need
you think.
another popper.
The funny thing is, though, once you've eaten some whirly popped popcorn, you kind of get a taste for it.
So,
You know what I mean?
would this necessitate the use of oil?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's great, but I kind of like the air popper way of adding no oil. I get more popcorn.
I do as well, but I'll be honest with you. I haven't eaten popcorn in 6 months now. I haven't had a single cheat food item all year so far. I realized the other day. So
Get
I
the
don't know what
whirly
that
pop.
means. But I have that whirly pop. And the last thing I ate before, going back on the diet was a whirly popped, big old bucket of whirly pop popcorn. It was real good. Really tasty. But I don't let myself have that stuff.
Do you have any recommendations, Tim?
Oh, I bet I do. But maybe nobody wants to hear those.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the kind of things you can't say out loud. You know what I mean?
That's fine.
I don't exactly.
I've got some recommendations for us both. If you enjoyed this episode of Insert Credit, then why? But also, please rate and review our show wherever and however you can, like Jace2071 did, who said, been listening since I was 15. I'm 20 now, and I still don't know what these guys are talking about.
Nice.
5 stars. You can also support us on patreon.com/insertcredit to pay everyone involved in this show, except Tim. You can also sponsor our show with an advertisement or personal message by getting in touch with me at show@insertcredit.com. You could join our community at forums.insertcredit.com or watch the YouTube version of this program on youtube.com/insertcreditshow. You'll be glad you did. This episode is edited by Esper Quinn with music by Kurt Feldman. I'm Alex Jaffe,
I'm Frank Spaldi.
I'm Tim Rogers.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
and you can always find me on Rodney's Fun Screen.
Rodney's Fun Screen.
I just went to stop my recording and I never started my recording. I'm sorry.
Frank!
Oh, no.
Lamau, dude. Lamau.